Hey Maya, this is honestly one of the weirdest things that's ever happened to me. Before I even get into it, I need to explain the place first. There's this abandoned hospital outside the city. It was built underground during World War II, and now there's literally nothing left inside it except bare walls. All of the entrances were sealed off years ago. Every single door is blocked, except for one, and even that one is basically filled in. There's only this tiny, narrow gap left. Not just anyone can get through it. Only really skinny people, and even then, you have to be fairly short. In our city, this hospital is pretty much forgotten. A long time ago, for no clear reason, back when my dad was still a kid, they sealed all the entrances and shut the whole place down. A while back, when I was staying at my grandfather's house, my dad's grandmother was there too. She started talking about that hospital. The way she described it, she said it was actually considered pretty advanced for its time, especially for that era. That got me curious, so I asked my grandfather about it. He said he didn't know much, just that ever since my dad was a kid, nobody worked there anymore. After a few years, it became a restricted area, and little by little, people just forgot about it. I asked him for the address, and he gave it to me. So I went there with one of our relatives, who, like me, is small-built. Even then, I barely managed to squeeze through the entrance. We finally got inside. As soon as you enter, there's something placed in there that makes noise echo through the entire building. We kept walking deeper in. He was filming the whole thing. The second I stepped inside, I felt awful. Like my body just shut down. There was this heavy, crushing feeling, and I was really uncomfortable. I told him, and he brushed it off, saying it was nothing. But the farther we went, the worse it got. I started feeling short of breath. I told him I couldn't do it anymore and that we had to leave. It felt like something heavy was pressing down on my shoulders. So we went back out. A while later, he messaged me and sent me a photo. He said, "Look at this. Doesn't it look like someone's in the picture?" When I saw it, I froze. I was genuinely terrified. First of all, that place was completely dark. No human could stand there without a light. Second, you could hear every single sound in that building: footsteps, breathing, everything echoed, but we didn't hear anything at all. And most importantly, if someone had entered, the sound would have echoed through the entire place. And the figure in that photo? It looked tall, big. There is absolutely no way a person that size could fit through that entrance, even if they tried. After seeing that photo, I felt seriously sick. My whole body just went cold. I'll send you the picture so you can show it in your video too. I would like to know what everyone else think about it. Is it just me, or is there really some sort of creature standing there? This is about a month after when a friend of my mom took her own life. Me and my twin brother didn't know about it at the time. My mom thought it was better not to tell us, but it hit her really hard. She got depressed and cried all the time. My dad saw how bad things were getting and decided to send me away for a while, so my mom's condition wouldn't mess me up too much. He sent me to stay with my grandma. My brother stayed home though, because he was undergoing treatment for an issue he had previously. So my uncle came to pick me up. I packed clothes for about 3 months and got into the car all excited. I loved my cousins, and they were supposed to come stay at my grandma's place with me, so I wouldn't be alone. By the second week, my uncle suggested I join the painting class my cousins were already going to, so I signed up too. The class was held in an old building that used to be a local hospital. The locals said it dated back to the 50s and had been renovated over time, but because it was small, it was never officially recognized as a historical site. The class ran from 5 to 7 inches the evening, with a short break in the middle. During one of those breaks, I got thirsty and went by myself to the water fountain. The fountain was in the basement. It had that old, cold storage vibe, those traditional underground spaces with a specific name that I can't remember right now. I was drinking water when I noticed someone standing at the top of the stairs. I could only see his shoes and pants. He was wearing shiny, pointy men's shoes, and his pants looked like they were made of wool. The kind people wear in winter because they're insanely warm. The outfit made no sense. Those pants did not match those shoes at all. In my head, I was kind of laughing at how ridiculous his style was, thinking his face must look just as weird. I hadn't seen his face, only his shoes and pants. Suddenly he said, "Gazelle, will you give me a glass of water? My throat is full of dust." Maya, in our language, they call very beautiful people with big eyes, Gazelle. It was the first time I'd ever heard that word, and it really caught my attention. I filled a glass of water and was about to hand it to him when he said, "Put it on the stairs and step back." That really surprised me, and honestly, it scared me a little. I thought maybe he'd come down into the basement to hurt me, so I didn't move closer. He repeated, "Gazelle, put the water on the step. My throat is full of dust." I just stood there, frozen. The third time, his voice got rough. He yelled, "Gazelle, I swear my throat is full of dust. Put the water on the step." And he stomped his foot hard on the ground. I started crying and loudly called out for my cousins. Then he suddenly softened and said, "Gazelle dear, I just wanted some water," and he left. My cousins came running when they heard me. I told them everything, and they said I shouldn't come down there alone anymore. They said it was probably just someone messing with me. I was crying so hard that I took a sip from the glass of water I had poured for him, the one still in my hand, and it tasted like dirt. I looked at the glass. The water I had just poured from the tap, which had been completely clear, was now muddy. That's when I remembered his words. My throat is full of dust. Time passed. 3 months later, I went back home. About a week after that, my grandma called and was talking to my dad. I overheard her saying that a man had been coming to their door every day, asking them to tell Gazelle to bring him water. He kept saying he was thirsty and that his throat was full of dust. My grandma said when she brought him water, he'd take it and pour it on the ground, saying he only wanted water from Gazelle's hands. My dad told her not to open the door for him anymore, saying he was probably just some crazy man. That whole thing happened when I was 7 years old, but I remember it perfectly. 12 years passed. I was 19. I graduated high school, and for personal reasons, I decided to work instead of going to college. My dad was very protective and said he'd find a job for me himself. After a few months, I started working at one of his friend's dental clinics as a receptionist and dental assistant. Everything was great. I loved feeling independent, and I was really good at my job. Then I turned 21 and found out I had severe aplastic anemia. Basically, my bone marrow stopped producing red blood cells or produced very few, which caused extreme anemia. The only treatment was a bone marrow transplant along with frequent blood transfusions. The illness affected my work too. I was dizzy all the time, so they decided I'd only work as a receptionist and not assist anymore. The clinic was usually very busy, but even with my condition, I handled everything really well. One day, I was on the phone with a patient when I felt someone walk into the clinic. I looked up and saw a young man standing in front of me. Maya. He was unbelievably beautiful and unbelievably pale. So pale, it felt like there was no blood in his face at all. He was handsome, but his skin was almost white, like it came from blood loss. His eyes were completely empty. When he stared at me, I got chills all over. The phone was still at my ear, and I said, "Yes? How can I help you?" He smirked and said, "Gazelle, my throat is full of dust. I want a glass of water." The second he said that, my entire body went cold. The memory of the old hospital flashed in front of my eyes like a movie. Then I remembered my grandma's words on the phone, and my stomach dropped. I could hear my heart pounding. I didn't say anything. I was frozen in my chair. Suddenly, he yelled, "I want a glass of water." That shout made the dentist come out of his office. The dentist was confused too, but when he saw the man, he brought him a glass of water and told me to keep an eye on him and send him off after he drank it. The man didn't drink the water. He placed the glass on my desk and left. And as he walked out, I saw his shoes. The exact same shiny, pointy shoes I had seen 14 years earlier at the top of the basement stairs. Still just as new. Just as polished. That night at home, I kept telling myself he must be a stalker. There was no way he could find me after 14 years and say the exact same words. I was terrified. I decided that if he came again, I'd just give him water, hoping he'd leave me alone after that. The next morning at the clinic, the first thing I did was put a big bottle of water on my desk, just in case he showed up. I waited all day. He didn't come. The next day, nothing. The day after that, nothing. But it was on the third day that he came back. He looked just as cold and lifeless and said, "Gazelle, give me some water. Wash the dust out of my throat." My hands were shaking as I poured the water. When I handed him the glass, my hands trembled so badly that half the water spilled onto the papers on my desk. He took one sip, just one, and that single sip brought color back to his face. He smiled at me. He wasn't scary anymore. His face looked calm, kind. All that fear inside me turned into something warm. I smiled back, and without another word, he left. After that, it became routine. Every day he came into the clinic, took exactly one sip of weight, never more, never less, and left. He never said anything except that same line about dust in his throat. After drinking, color would return to his face, he'd smile, and he'd go. One day, I forgot to put water on my desk. When he came in, I told him to wait while I got some. He smiled and nodded. "Maya, because of my illness, when I stand up, I have to take a few deep breaths, hold on to something, stand still for a few seconds, and only then I can start walking. Otherwise, I get dizzy and collapse. That day, I forgot. I stood up too fast and took a few steps toward the kitchen when everything went black and I fell. I felt like I fell on my back. In that position, my head should have slammed hard into the floor, but at the last second, I felt someone catch me. I couldn't see anything, but I felt someone gripping my wrist and holding my chin back with 2 fingers so I wouldn't choke and could breathe while lying there. I didn't know who it was, but his hands were ice cold. In my hazy state, I kept thinking, it has to be him. I stayed weak until the ambulance arrived. When it got there, the medic injected something, and I started feeling better. When I could finally see, I was still on the floor, my head turned to the side. From that angle, I could only see people from the knees down, and I saw a pair of shiny, pointy black shoes walking out of the clinic. I wanted to go after him and give him water, but I couldn't move. After that day, I stopped going to work and focused on treatment. We were preparing for my brother to donate his bone marrow to me. Every day, I called the clinic and asked if that man had come back. They always said no, and honestly, I felt guilty. One night, he came to me in a dream. He said, "Gazelle, you quenched my thirst. There's no dust in my throat anymore. I pray that your illness gets better and in return that you'll be filled with blood." When I woke up, I felt really good. I wasn't cured yet. I still needed the transplant, but the guilt was gone. I felt at peace. It's been about a year since all of this. I'm almost recovered now. I still need blood transfusions from time to time, but I've never seen him again. Maya, there's one more strange thing. I told you that when I fainted, I felt someone holding my wrist and under my chin. From that day on, bruises appeared on my wrist and under my chin. People say when you're anemic, your body bruises easily, but even after treatment, those marks still haven't disappeared. I'll send you a photo. Please show it in the video and ask people to share their opinions on what it could be. Thanks for reading my story. Love you so much. One of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life is the story I'm about to tell you now. It's something that truly shook me to my core. This happened during the COVID lockdowns. My father had COVID, a severe case, and he had been hospitalized for several days. I've always had a hard time with hospitals. Even the smell, alcohol wipes, disinfectant, hospital food, it all makes me nauseous. I can barely tolerate the environment. But that first night, I insisted on staying with my dad. I was 27 at the time, and I had never spent a night in a hospital before. I had zero experience with hospital routines, night shifts, any of it. Around 4 a.m., the night shift nurse came into the room. She saw that I was awake and told me to go to the ER and pick something up for my father. I didn't even understand what she meant or what exactly I was supposed to get. But this was early COVID days, everyone was terrified, the news was full of horror stories, and my dad was in bad shape. So in my head, I thought, this must be urgent. She wouldn't be asking me at 4 a.m. if it wasn't important. I asked her where the ER was. She said, go down to the ground floor and follow the red line. We were on the 3rd floor in one of the biggest hospitals in the city, huge building, endless departments, corridors, elevators, stairwells. I hurried toward the elevator. The moment the doors opened and I stepped inside, I felt it, that heavy, uncomfortable feeling in your chest. Imagine this. A young woman, completely alone, at 4 a.m., in a massive hospital where there isn't a single other person around. A place where you know emergencies happen constantly, where people die, where stretchers move through hallways all night long. The elevator itself was huge. When the doors closed, I actually hesitated, wondering if I should even be in there. My mind started spiraling, thinking about how bodies are transported, how patients are moved, all the things you don't want to think about in a hospital at night. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened into a relatively narrow hallway. I stepped out and followed the red line on the floor. A few steps later, I reached an even narrower corridor so tight that only 2 people could walk side by side. One side was a solid wall. The other side was all glass, and beyond that glass, nothing. Just darkness. It was completely silent. No footsteps, no voices, no machines. Just me alone walking down a roughly 200 feet hallway that connected one building wing to another. Every step felt heavier than the last. At the end of the corridor, the colored lines on the floor split in different directions. Some went left, some right. I needed the red line. But here was the problem. There were 2 similar colors. One was bright red. The other was a very dark orange, almost red. I followed the red line to the left and saw that it led to a closed, dark door. No lights, nothing. I thought, okay, then it must be the other one. So I followed the darker orange-red line to the right. That side was even darker. I walked about 50 meters into near-complete darkness and reached a stairwell. No lights, just shadows. That's when I stopped. I thought, this doesn't make sense. The ER wouldn't be hidden like this. There should be lights, people, something. I noticed some signs next to the stairs. One said going up, one going down. I stepped closer to read them, and it was then when I realized that I was in the morgue. The moment I read that word, my entire body went cold. I got goosebumps everywhere. My legs went weak. I swear it felt like my body added extra weight just to keep me from moving. I didn't hesitate. I turned around and practically ran back the way I came, my steps uneven, my heart pounding, every instinct screaming at me to get away from that place. I reached that same narrow glass hallway again, the one connecting the buildings. It was slightly more lit than the previous area, so I slowed down a little, but still walked faster than normal. At the same time, I kept telling myself, there are cameras here. Don't run, don't look hysterical. I was halfway through that long corridor when, in that silence, in the middle of the night, I suddenly felt like someone was walking behind me. You know that sound when someone wears their shoes halfway on heels crushed down so every step makes that dragging, scuffing noise? That's exactly what it sounded like. Like someone about 20 feet behind me, walking slowly. At the same time, I heard another sound. It sounded like glass clinking together, soft and delicate. Like someone carrying a tray of glasses of drinks, and their hands are shaking just a little, so the glasses gently hit each other with every step. I'm sure you can picture it. The kind of faint, nervous sound glass makes. My first thought was, okay, maybe it's hospital staff. Maybe someone's walking behind me with a tray. At least I wouldn't be alone. I turned around just to check, just to calm myself. But there was no one there. Not a staff member or even a cart was there. That's when the atmosphere completely shifted for me. I sped up. My heart started racing, but the sounds didn't stop. The dragging footsteps were still there, and so was the soft clinking of glass. I reached the main hallway that led toward the elevators, and the moment I stepped into that brighter, central area, The sound suddenly stopped. Instantly. That made me feel slightly safer. At least this part of the hospital was a main corridor, not dark or isolated. I took a few deep breaths as I walked. When I reached the elevator, I stopped. That same elevator, the big empty one from before. The thought of getting inside it again made my stomach drop, especially knowing that bodies are sometimes transported in those elevators. I changed my mind, so I took the stairs. I walked up 3 flights, one step at a time. When I reached the 3rd floor, I took the last step up and lifted my head. And at that exact moment, the doors of that large elevator opened right in front of me. A man rushed out. He was dressed entirely in black shirt, black pants, black shoes. At that hour of the night, seeing someone suddenly burst out of the elevator made me jump back almost a full step. Before I could even process it and walk toward my dad's ward, the same man suddenly turned around and rushed back toward the elevator. That second movement scared me even more than the first. The way he moved, it looked like someone in a hurry who steps out, realizes they're on the wrong floor, and immediately turns back. Or at least, that's what I told myself. All I know is that everything combined, the silence, the footsteps, the sounds, the elevator, that man pushed me right to the edge of a panic attack. I finally made it back to the ward. I must have looked awful, because the nurse immediately noticed. I was pale, shaken, completely out of it. I told her. I couldn't find the ER, so I came back. Is it something urgent? Do I really need to go get it right now? And she looked at me completely calm and said, "Oh no, it's just a patient ID wristband. I wanted to put your father's name on his arm. That's it, a paper wristband." I swear, I spent the rest of the night blatantly cursing her. Like, why on earth would you send a young woman alone through a massive hospital at 4:30 in the morning for a paper wristband? Why not wait until daylight, when people are around? What made it even worse was that she had originally used a different term for the wristband, one I didn't recognize. That's why I thought it was something critical. And here's the worst part. The ER also had direct access from the courtyard. If she'd told me to go that way, at least there were lights, a few open cafes, other patient companions, taxi drivers waiting outside. That route wouldn't have been nearly as terrifying. Instead, I was sent through the darkest, emptiest parts of the hospital. Anyways, my dad eventually recovered and came home, thankfully. But even now, years later, just remembering that night makes my heart race. Even telling this story again, I can feel the anxiety creeping back in. I know nothing actually happened. But in that moment, at that hour, in that silence, in that atmosphere, it was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. This one is for sure.